We've all heard the story. The year is 1588, and the Anglo-Spanish War has reached a feverish pitch. Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth I of England, along with her subjects, the English, had been at the helm of taking great strides to build up its navy. But the country's adversary, Spain, still controlled much of the global waters. Its leader, King Philip II, was seeking to use an invincible naval attempt, the Spanish Armada, to invade England and remove Queen Elizabeth I from the throne. If successful, a Catholic monarch would once again rule over Protestant England, yet Philip's answer for revenge didn't work out as planned. You see, the Spanish found themselves outnumbered and suffered from an aging fleet, which led to the Spaniards being obliterated, leading to British domination on oceanic floors and, more importantly, renewed confidence for the non-Catholic Christians across Western Europe that changed the world forever. But how would history have unfolded if the English Navy proved incapable of intercepting the Spanish fleet in the English Channel? To form an alternate timeline, we must go back and understand why the Spanish Armada did not succeed. We begin in 1588, when England and Spain were allies against their common enemy, France. King Philip II sought a great mutual friendship with Queen Elizabeth and even suggested they wed. But Her Majesty was not for the idea and rejected his proposal politely. At the time, France and Scotland had an alliance that would be dangerous to Elizabeth and her throne. So to protect herself, Elizabeth kept Philip beside her as a shield, but the religious war between them began crippling in both ends, with King Philip's plan of dethroning Queen Elizabeth and making England a Catholic nation again. Just a year prior, in 1587, Queen Elizabeth had killed Mary I of Scotland, the Catholic queen, together with a few of Queen Mary's most loyal accomplices, executed. This move infuriated King Philip, who obsessed over invading Britain. However, Philip II needed financial backing for his endeavor and turned to Pope Sixtus V to fund his venture. In return, the Pope would get his money back after Spain occupied England and witnessed the restoration of a Catholic England. Philip II authorized the construction of a fleet of 130 ships for the Armada, led by the Spanish Admiral Álvaro de Bazan, a veteran who never tasted defeat in battle. The plan? The ships would sail to pick up 30,000 troops stationed at Flanders in the Netherlands after having a pit stop in France to quell an ongoing Dutch resistance before advancing to England for the strike. Unfortunately, in February 1588, Álvaro de Bazan suddenly died, resulting in Juan Alfonso Pérez de Guzmán being appointed to lead the Armada. De Guzmán had zero experience with naval warfare, but this did not stop Philip II. The Spanish found it difficult to stow away their invasion plans with an armada that expansive, allowing Queen Elizabeth's informants enough time to warn the British throne of the impending attack. On May 28, 1588, the Spanish Armada set sail from Lisbon, docking their ships at Calais, France, on June 27th, en route to the Netherlands. On July 29th, with Sir Francis Drake, an English captain and naval officer who traveled around the world in a single expedition from 1577 to 1580, led England in a preemptive naval strike, setting 8 of their ships ablaze and crashing into the Spanish fleet berthed at the port of Calais in northern France. Luckily, none of the ships burned, but this tactic altered the formation of the Armada. In an attempt to salvage their remainder of the fleet, the Spanish sailed them back to the water, where British ships met and accosted them. The result was pure chaos, with many ships of the Spanish fleet colliding into one another. The British strategically set up a blockade that cut off the fleet's path back to Spain, forcing the rest of the Armada to sail away to the Atlantic Ocean, only to be met by a fierce storm. In total, around 15,000 soldiers returned to Spain, with only 67 ships from the failed invasion. But what if the Armada went through with their invasion? Would the course of history change in the event of this probability? For this to happen, Álvaro de Bazan, the Spanish admiral, would still be alive to lead the Armada in this alternate timeline. With a career spanning for over half a century, de Bazan would guide the Spanish fleet in a more organized manner, coming up with excellent contingency plans in the event of trouble or danger. Conscious of the fact that the English were aware of the Armada's plans, de Bazan would suggest a different sea route, preferably one that allowed for open combat and with low chances of surprise attacks. So, instead of sailing from Lisbon and stopping in France before meeting with the 30,000 soldiers in the Netherlands, de Bazan would have implored Philip II to stop in Spain earlier before proceeding straight to the Netherlands to rendezvous with the soldiers at Flanders. From there, the Armada would sail onwards to England and invade the island country. If the Spaniards had bottled up their ships at Plymouth, the English would not have taken a crucial position in Armada, and they would be bombarded to defeat. According to Tudor archaeologist and historian Robert Hutchison, if the Duke of Parma, General Alexander Farnese, had not hardened the troops, they would successfully have landed near Margate on the Kent coast and would have poorly defended the streets of London within a week. This tactic would have led to a united front from the Armada, as they would not be broken apart and would have experienced fewer chances of wind disruption that would make the Spaniards retreat north. Seizing the throne, the Spaniards would kill Queen Elizabeth I and claim England as part of the Spanish kingdom. The British royal line we know of today would have ceased to exist. Imagine no news about beloved Prince Harry. Could we possibly live without the royal family? Let's get back to King Philip II, who would have installed a puppet ruler and reinstated Catholicism in England, ordering the execution of any Protestant rebels that refused to convert. Due to the victory, Philip II would go beyond and return Protestant European nations to Catholicism, with Germany, Denmark, and Sweden having to fall in line. These would also affect the politics in Europe, as by this time, the Spanish were 20 years into the 80 Years' War against the Habsburg Netherlands, consisting of 17 provinces, which are now known as the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. The Spanish would have enlisted English soldiers to fight in the war, resulting in a Spanish victory. Philip II would have used England's treasury as his source of paying back Pope Sixtus V. The Spanish would have quickly become the undisputed world superpower, with no opposition. By the 15th century, the Spanish already secured their first colony in the Americas by acquiring Santo Domingo in 1496. The Spanish converted Native Americans to Christian Catholicism. In this timeline, the Dutch and British colonial settlements in the Americas would not exist, with France still claiming French Quebec in North America and Spain having full control of America, now the USA, and already occupying the majority of South and Central America. The USA, as we know it, would be a Spanish protectorate. The Spanish would have set their sights on the rest of the unexplored world, starting with Australia. England claimed Australia as British territory in 1770, but in this timeline, the Spanish would have claimed Australia as part of the Spanish Empire, setting up a base in the Pacific Ocean. From there, the Spanish would have moved to India, colonizing the nation in the 19th century to set up a base in Asia. The scramble and partition of Africa would likely not have existed, with France retaining her colonies in Western, Central, and Northern Africa. Notice that France maintains colonies in North America and now Africa. Wonder why? Because the French were Catholic, thus forming a civil understanding with Spain in this timeline. The Spanish would have acquired territories in Eastern and Southern Africa and agree on the acquisition of some Central African countries with the French, thus gaining a 50% stake in the continent. According to Hutchison, we could all be speaking Spanish today, with the Spanish having very strong footholds in Europe, America, Africa, Asia, and Australia. It's safe to say that in this alternate timeline, that Spanish would be the universal language spoken worldwide. School systems with Spanish curriculums, currencies in pesos, and daily conversations would be in Spanish. With King Philip II abolishing Protestantism in 1588, Christian denominations would have never existed, with Catholicism being the only way of practicing Christianity. With over 30,000 recognized Christian organizations registered, none of them would have ever existed, all but Catholicism. Hypothetically speaking, all of these outcomes would have come to reality had one Álvaro de Bazan led the Spanish Armada against the British throne. But sometimes you cannot fight destiny. That is all we have for today. Have any more suggestions on the alternate timeline? Feel free to comment down below. England, having taken numerous colonies from the Caribbean islands in the Caribbean Sea to India in South Asia and reaching the southmost tip of the African continent in South Africa, the British sure had a large stake, but what if the Spaniards got us lucky? In the 18th and 19th century, the Spanish would have controlled so many territories that would in turn boost their economy. The Atlantic slave trade then would have aided in bringing into Europe numerous raw materials like tobacco, gold, coal, among others, which would in turn boost their ports to the coast of Spain. The booming industrialization in Spain would have it on top of the chart to date, but it was never meant to be so. The Spanish Armada had never meant to set dock. What would you have preferred to happen? Tell us in the comments below.